My name is Abigail, and I'm from Young Techies, and I'm hosting this Beyond Kenya Tech series. And today we have such a wonderful and amazing guest, Daniel Iyiola. He's from Nigeria. Hello, Daniel. Welcome.
Hi, Abigail. Thank you very much for bringing me on board here. Thank you. How are you doing
It's
today?
it's. I'm doing very well. I've had an amazing, crazy week, but we're here now, and I guess that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm sure we'll have a lot more people joining the live as we continue.
Okay.
Also people watching the live also as it goes up later on. So it's just a conversation, me and you here. All right. So Daniel, take me back to I want to take you back to years ago. Yeah, when we meet little Daniel. What did you have any dreams relating to what you're doing today as a data engineer? What are some of the things that you wanted to do as a kid, and maybe you can attribute that to what you're doing today?
Okay. So thinking about it right now, what I wanted to do as a kid and what I'm doing right now, totally two different things. I play the musical instruments. I play the saxophone. Growing up, I usually play a couple of musical instruments. So at some point in my life, I thought I was going to be a full-time musician. Uh, I know, right? I still play the saxophone, although, but I mean, I do it as a hobby right now. I play from time to time. I play in the choir at church, but it's not what I do full time. Sometime in secondary school, I read Gifted Hands for the first time. Was a book bought from my dad, and the story of Ben Carson, and how he defied all odds and turned out to be one of the biggest neurosurgeons, and not just a neurosurgeon, but a pediatric neurosurgeon in the world. So I think in secondary school, then it then struck me that I want to make so much impact like this guy, and I think throwing this line would make a lot of sense. So I think all around secondary school, all until when I got to university, I was considering going to medical school, becoming a doctor, then further becoming a surgeon, further becoming a surgeon and all of that. But well, I'm miles and miles away from that, but I'm still happy I get to see create and generate impact and value as I wanted to, which I believe is the baseline for what I wanted to do and what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Wow, okay, that's really cool. But that's really interesting. From playing musical instruments, saxophone, to thinking you're going to be a medical student, now you're doing data. Maybe we can dive a bit more into that.
Okay.
How did you develop an interest in data engineering? Now that you work at KPMG Africa, one of the heavy hitters in, big tech, how did you get your journey? How did you maneuver and find your way in data engineering?
Okay. Thank you very much. That is always an interesting story to tell. Um, so after I finished, I studied marine biology at the University of Lagos, Nigeria. And marine biology is totally also different from what I had in mind earlier. But during school, I then noticed that we had this particular. I volunteer a lot for certain organizations. I volunteered for a particular organization that's a climate aid initiative. That's the name of the organization. And we had a particular session where we went to Lagos State, still in Lagos, Nigeria, um, and we organized a event for them where we're talking about climate change. We're simulating one of the G20 meetings that I held the previous year, I think in Paris or Switzerland. I can't remember right now. And what they were doing there in that event was several students who asked as ambassadors for different countries in the G20. Um, Other people worked as capitalists, market owners, and all of that. And they made certain decisions on how to reduce carbon exchange in their particular country. And then the organizer of the event took those decisions. Okay, if this country says I'll reduce my carbon emission by 20%, he imputes that decision in the particular software. And when we're done, it sort of predicted how much carbon levels would have reduced as at 2100, that's 2100, right? And I was really fascinated by, how a certain piece of software can then predict what will happen in the world at that far time with just taking some decisions from key people around the world. And I was really fascinated. I then decided I knew to do with data, some form of statistical analysis. Um, Luckily for me, the next year in school, because I was at 200 level then, by year three, we did a course which was statistics for biologists. And there was my first introduction into, using computer systems, using software to carry out analysis with data. And I found that I loved it. I enjoyed doing it, using I enjoy, just press the laptop and getting results, predicting some form of predictions here and there. Yeah, so that's how it started for me. And although it has been a crazy journey, I mean, from there, I did a lot of statistical research, analysis for people, freelancing, and all of that. But still, getting out of school, my first job was as a customer care representative. So I was still not in data. But while doing that job, I recognized that, man, I'm not sure this thing is for me because it's quite repetitive. And then I begin to search inward and check what do I love to do. And I realized that, I mean, I still enjoy doing data, but not just statistical analysis now, but, doing data. I started to use Python, self-learning. Interestingly, that was COVID year. So I had enough time on my hands at home. I learned how to use SQL, Python, all of those tools. And I got an internship, and as I switched to data.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. You've mentioned that you did marine biology, right?
Yeah,
And that's you sort of got interest in the engineering field. But
yeah.
for someone who doesn't know what you typically do on a day to day, can you give us a typical rundown of how your day looks like from morning to maybe when you clock out of work?
Okay. So, for fact, I'm still at work. Yeah, but a typical day starts for me by a work hour starts by 8. So depending on the projects I am, I usually have my stand-up meetings with my teammates, my manager, and directors and others on the team. From like we have for like 30 minutes. Everybody goes around and talks about what they worked on the previous day, what they're going to do today, if there are any blockers and stuff. Tasks that are already outlined for me for the day. Sometimes I have to sit and just think through my tasks, in majorly writing codes using Python, SQL, Bash. That's Linux commands to either uh, checking certain stuff if they match what they're supposed to match. I'm moving in somewhere where used for certain analysis for the day. Other but typically that's
Okay, so I've heard you mention something like Python and SQL, Bash. So what are some of the tools that maybe before we go to the tools, we know there's a data analyst and there's a data engineer. For someone who's watching and they're interested in the data field and they're trying to figure out, okay, so do I want to be an analyst or do I want to be an engineer? From your perspective, are you able to maybe you can give us a short differentiation of the two, who a data analyst is and who the data engineer is?
Okay, so I'll even extend it a bit. I'll talk about data analysis. So you have that money. Did we earn money? Uh,
Yeah, I can hear you well, pretty well actually. I don't know if it's yeah.
all right, I think it's fine. Of course, they have to transform the data. Executive or people use on their day to day. So if you're to ask like how much did we spend yesterday on certain items, the data analyst will give that answer because they have a beautiful dashboard showing some of those insights. But before data analysts can do their job, you have the data engineer that would have brought data from where it was before to where it is for data scientists. What data scientists does like machine learning, machine learning models now.
Hello, Daniel. I think your connection is a bit choppy. Can you hear me? Hello, Daniel. Okay. Daniel, can you hear me? I think we lost him. No. Let me see if I can try and get him back. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I hope he's able to join. Ah,
That's
it's okay.
sorry
Welcome
about
back.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you were telling us the differences between a data engineer, data analyst, and data scientist for
Okay.
different
Yes, so I
professionals.
think I already spoke about data engineer and data analysts. So data scientists, basically, in simple terms, what they majorly do is prep for the future. So they want to help us predict what's going to happen in the future based on the historic data. So that's what basically they do. Of course, there's a lot more, but I just going to keep it very simple at this time. So in short terms, data engineer move data from one place to another and transform the data, clean it up. Data analysts build reports, dashboards, metrics to tell us what has happened, why it has happened, why data scientists look at they use past data to then predict what is going to happen in the future. Yeah, so that's in simple terms.
Okay, pretty cool. So Daniel, if you look at, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you quite well, very well.
Okay. All right, great. So Daniel, if you look at today and how rapidly tech is evolving, with AI now, um, given that you had your internship back in 2020, if you could go back and relearn data engineering today, how would you go about it for someone who's like, oh my gosh, overwhelmed with all these, information sources? Should I do a course? Should I take on a project? How would you go about it today if you were in their shoes?
That's it's a very interesting question because right now there's a whole lot, like a whole lot. I mean, if I was starting today, I mean, even right now as a data engineer, as an experienced data engineer, I still find it a bit overwhelming because there are a lot of tools out there. But firstly, what first thing I first tell myself is to calm down. Um, just take it step by step. There's no need to overload yourself. You just need to take it step by step. So the first thing I would do is first understand the fundamentals as much as possible. So fundamentals of data. What's data all about? How does data transform into information? Because data is quite useless until you can get information out of it. Then now speaking about the data engineering field, first start with understanding what are databases, what are data systems, what do we have generally. Then I'll pick a programming language, most specifically Python, and SQL. Those two are largely going to be used by if you're a data engineer. And one thing I've also realized is that almost all a good number, a good chunk of data engineering tools are based on either one of these two languages. So either it's Python or SQL. There's hardly a tool you can mention that doesn't have to do with any of these languages. So learn the basics of those two languages very well, understand it to a very good extent. Then you can now leverage those languages in any of those tools. So you can start with data databases. Most databases use SQL, but big data database like Snowflake uses both SQL and Python. So, I mean, there you can explore as much as you like. So once you've are well grounded in those two tools, then you can start exploring it. for that board. I think one more system I need to mention is Linux system. So most data engineering systems are usually based off Linux systems. So if you know how to use Bash scripting, it goes a long way, goes a really long way. So Python, Bash, SQL, start with those ones first, learn them very well, and then I start exploring tools like look at. So one more thing I usually try to do is because you're learning in order to get a job, to get to do stuff, and to earn money. So I look at the kind of roles I'm looking out for. I check the kind of roles I'm looking out for. Am I in Nigeria? What are the kind of tools is being used in Nigeria? For example, if you're in Nigeria, the most prevalent visualization tool, for example, just thinking about visualization now for data analysis is Power BI. So instead of learning tools like Tableau or Looker, I'll most likely pick out Power BI, except I have a niche, I have a company I'm vying out for that uses Looker. So the same thing goes for data engineering tools. Look at job descriptions, which tools are available, which tools do they usually ask, are they asking for? Then now learn that based on. So I'm sure you see repetitive tools like Airflow, used for orchestration. You see databases tools. So if you're looking at big data databases, you're seeing things like Redshift, Snowflake, BigQuery. Then cloud platform so matters a lot. So you can pick just one cloud platform. The knowledge is transferable, so it works. It helps a lot. If you learn AWS and you say a company is looking for Azure, you can easily just transfer the knowledge you've learned in AWS to Azure. Yes. So one more thing I'm going to say about tools are great. Those things are great, but one thing you also need to keep that you need to keep. Um, it's going to be a long one, really, because a lot of people are learning a lot and there's a lot to learn. So you need to prepare yourself mentally, take it step by step. Don't overload yourself, and find people that you can learn with. It helps and goes a long way. Find people that you can learn with. You might not necessarily find a mentor because a lot of people that are skilled are very busy. But of course, you'll find a community that's of people that are learning together. I'm currently part of a lot of communities that have helped my growth. Part of the young data professionals community in Nigeria, data engineering community in Nigeria, data governance. So there's so many great communities there. There's this community that organizes Data First Africa every year. Um, yeah, and I'm even sure Young Techies is another communities that you can be part of, that you find other learners that are growing like you. Accountability is very, very helpful. Accountability is very, very helpful. So when you find communities like this, you find people that are learning what you are also learning, and then you can grow together and push the learning together. Yeah, so I think that would be my advice.
All right, that's pretty cool, Daniel. So if another topic, interesting that you mentioned networking and communities, because I don't know, how did you get your first internship? Back in 2020? Was it via referral? Was it voluntarily? Because here in Kenya, I'm sure we have a lot of talent, but we really struggle to find, some of those opportunities where we can get to, showcase our work or even just get a job. What advice or what piece of advice would you give someone who's trying to, I'm trying to get into this data field, but I'm really having a hard time getting an internship, getting an entry level job. Maybe you can talk to us a bit more about that.
Okay. Um, so I'm great that you asked that question. I mean, the world is quite different from when I started. A good number of them. But right now, there are a lot of people vying. One of the first things you want to do
Daniel, I think you're breaking. Mhm.
Just check. Just go on Google and search data engineering projects for beginners, data engineering projects for intermediates. I'm sure you see tons of them that you can leverage. So build those projects.
Daniel, I think you're breaking. Daniel, Daniel, you're breaking.
Okay.
Hello, Daniel?
Can you see hear me?
Yes, but I think your internet is a bit unstable. Can you hear me? Okay. Hello? Hello, Daniel?
Hear me?
Hello? Okay, in the meantime, I'm seeing we have some comments. Kevin Washir is watching from Kenya. Hi, Kevin. Um, Ayodeji Ajay from Nigeria. Oh, thank you so much for tuning in. Oh my gosh, the names. I'm just hoping I don't butcher them. Odewumi Oluwakemi from Nigeria. Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please share the live with your friends, anyone who's trying to break into data. This, I think, would be a really, really helpful, short and sweet session. I'm hoping our guest Daniel is able to reconnect. Today we're having technical issues, a big one. So please bear with us. Hopefully he can reconnect soon. But yes, yes, yes. Please comment who you'd like to see on the show, what you're enjoying about this conversation. Any questions you have for Daniel, please feel free to drop them in the comments. We'd love to see and interact with you. Oh no, I think he's dropped off again. Um, Let me see if I can try and get him back on. I think we're halfway through. Please bear with us. Apologies, technical issues, internet connections. I'm sure you understand. Let me try and get him back on and we can continue. Okay. I'm so sorry, guys. Today we have, we're really going through it. You're back. It's
So sorry
completely
about
okay.
that again. Yeah, so sorry about that again. Okay, well, hope you can hear me clearly now.
Yes, now I can hear you well. I think maybe comment if you can
Okay.
hear both of us well. That would really help us. Um, yeah, but Daniel, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I think I was speaking about how you can get roles now. So question is community. Personally, if I'm looking to hire someone for new roles, first thing I do is go to my community, the communities I'm part of. Check, are there people that I know within that community that I've been doing stuff that's so I typically just drop that job description in the community and get feedbacks before I'll go out. So that's one thing. Then number two would be try as much as possible to make yourself visible. So what I'm talking about is build projects. If you don't know where to start from for building projects, you can just go online, go on Google, just search data engineering projects, data analyst projects. You will see tons of projects that you can build, right? So based on this, um, you build a project. And when you build a project, don't just build, but when you build them, you're done. You can ask your community members to help you review, and not just review, you're done with the reviewing, post it online, right? Talk about your project, talk about what you did, talk about what problem you were solving. It could be as simple as you're trying to just make sure that I can bring data from here to here, or I was trying to see, how how much I use Spotify or how much I use Netflix, or I just build project around stuff, and it could be around typical things that people would like to know. Um, I heard how Spotify what's that stuff that Spotify does every year? Can't remember now. Yeah, for Spotify Wrapped, right? It was a project of an intern in at Spotify. Spotify Wrapped, and it came out of Spotify. Before you know it, YouTube took it up, and other platforms just started being wrapped everywhere, right? So it could just be something that, oh, I like to know, get information about what I do daily, or oh, my WhatsApp. Well, I think one very cool project I've seen also is WhatsApp chats. Somebody just took a, a snapshot of all the chats that we've had on the particular WhatsApp group for the past 1 year, and the person was able to say, oh, the, this group chat is most busy at this time of the day, at this time of the day, at this time of the week, right? And oh, this person is the talkative of the group, right? So such information are usually very helpful, and just post those information online. This is what I've done, and when you keep doing that consistently, people begin to notice that, oh yeah, you've been doing this consistently for a while. If I'm looking for someone and I see that this person keeps posting about this project over and over again on my social media, I keep seeing this person on my timeline, I'll be more accustomed to reaching out to that person for a role than another person. So yes, community very important, build projects very important, and try as much as possible to build in public, push your stuff out there. Except maybe probably you've worked in Microsoft already. But if you've not worked in Microsoft or KPMG, please push yourself out there as much as possible. Blow your trumpet as much as possible. But make sure that what you're blowing is relevant and it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I really like that you're saying we should put yourself out there. Even I think here at Young Techies, that's the gospel we preach here. You really need to put yourself out there. Whether you're afraid or not, you need to really get yourself out there. So curious, Daniel, as much as you've talked about how you can, really try and network, get involved in communities, as an individual, and when it's just down to you, how would you leverage AI as now an assistant or as a tool to also help you secure these jobs or even in upskilling your data engineering skills?
Okay. Um, so I was speaking with a friend earlier this week, and I said we will all be lying to ourselves if we say we don't use AI for for our day-to-day work. Honestly, we'll be lying to ourselves. So I mean, when I'm stuck or I'm looking for templates to get started with, I could just go on ChatGPT. Oh, I need this Python code to do this. It starts. Then of course I can then tweak it here, tweak it there. But I mean, the boiler template I need to start with, ChatGPT has given me that, or Claude AI has given me that. So and I use ChatGPT a lot when I'm searching for roles. So AI is very important, and not just very important, but it helps you automate things and get. And one of the things I've seen in most situations, I have one of my friends here on the call, who's a CV writer, and one of the things they have said is that um, um, you notice that people don't have the right CV for certain job roles, and one thing that can help you with that is using leveraging AI tools. So you can use AI tools to build the right CV, customize it as much as possible for that role before you then push it out there. And you realize that this thing is actually very important because when the recruiter is looking at CVs, he or she wants to see, people that have the right skills for those roles that he or she is pushing out there for. So use ChatGPT, use all of these tools to customize CV as much as possible for these roles. And then for learning, so one thing I advise is not to get very dependent on AI. As a beginner or getting started, there's that tendency to just use ChatGPT for everything, but it won't help you because you need to understand the fundamentals and the basics, the foundation yourself. You need to understand those things yourself. One of my senior colleagues, calling the mentor, always says learn how to read documentations, especially for data engineers, because you're working with a lot of tools and the documentation is out there for you to learn how those tools work. So learn how to read documentation. Don't just chat GPT everything. Learn how to read documentation, learn how to, get started, learn how to understand. So because you need to be able to understand these things fundamentally. Um, how this, so when ChatGPT gives you the prompt eventually, you need to be able to understand those, you need to be able to understand what the code is doing line for line, word for maybe not word for word, but each line, understand what each block of code is doing, right? That way, when you understand it get clearly enough, fundamentals and learning, your foundation is very strong, then you can leverage ChatGPT to do as much because I can just imagine I wrote a piece of code and my manager is asking me, what does this code do? And I can't explain what it does because I use ChatGPT to write everything. That would be disastrous. That would be disastrous, right? So you need to understand the basics, not just basics, get yourself well grounded before you start using AI tools to write code for you. But in terms of, getting roles, applying for roles, yes, as much as possible, use ChatGPT and those AI tools to build your CV, um, and AI tools can help you do that. Yeah, they can really help you do that.
Right. Funny, I second you completely. A trend that I'm noticing with guests that come on here is how much they emphasize on understanding the fundamentals of what you're doing, whether you're in product, in data, whether you're a developer, really understanding the fundamentals and then learning how to leverage with AI. I think that is something that I've noted consistently. So before we continue, I think I just want to read some comments here. We have
Okay.
we had Odewumi, who is from Nigeria, and we also have Oyedeji Ajay. I hope I'm not butchering their names from Nigeria as well. So guys to be here. We have Prakash from India. That's really cool. Bless your family too, Prakash. Please feel free to write down or drop down any questions you have for Daniel. I think we're all here to learn. So Daniel, just a fun question. If data
Okay.
engineering was the field of data was a sport, what sport do you think that would be?
Okay. Boss it very well. If data engineering was a sport, what sports would it be? Hmm. Um, Now I have to think about. I'm thinking about the sports that I know. Um, I don't know why. I don't know why rugby is coming to mind.
Rugby,
But
rugby.
definitely this will be a sport where there has to be collaboration, where you have to be a team player, where there has to be communication. Um, and then, of course, it has to be where you play your part and pass the ball to the next person to play his or her part. And I think the reason why I'm saying rugby is because there'll be fights involved. Of course, well, not physical fights, but of course there'll be disagreement about certain things, certain requirements, certain code, certain reviews, right? But and it's going to be tough, really. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to be quite tough because you have to kind of like just wiggle your way, not just wiggle your way, but confidently push your way through a number of these things. Yeah. So I'll say rugby. So you still have to communicate. You have to be a team player. You have to collaborate. You have to push your way through to the end. But of course, it's very rewarding and very very interesting.
Okay. Rugby is a pretty interesting choice. So Daniel, if I could ask you to maybe just be honest with us for a bit here. Um, what do you think people romanticize about the data engineering field that maybe you can, you know, be transparent with us about? Is there something that you
Okay.
feel people look at data and they're like, wow, oh my gosh, I really want to work in data because, is it the visualizations, or can you maybe just debunk that because you are someone who is in the field and I think you're best suited to be able to tell us, well, guys, this is the truth and this is what it is about data.
Okay. The first one that comes to mind is that going to come to data is the fastest way to make cool cash within the shortest possible time. Well, um, kid you not, it's going to take a while, and it's going to be a journey, right? So I've seen people that say, "Oh, let's break into tech, come into data." I just did some courses, take some courses in data analytics, and within a few months, we're earning dollars, my dear. That is not usually the case. That is not usually the case. So people just feel like, okay, let's just make quick money, just learn 2 months course, weeks courses, and we're there, we're making dollars already. But that's not usually the case, right? It's usually a journey. You start learning, and it's an evolving field. It's a very fast evolving field, so things are changing in time. Yeah, so you have to learn and keep learning. And it's not a thing of you learn today and that's it. I kid you not. Even as I'm here, I'm still learning things, right? I'm still learning things over and over again every day. So fast evolving is going to be a journey. Of course, some people have the opportunity to hit it big, hit it quick, to some extent. And in most cases, they realize that those people they already have background in some things. So probably a software engineer switching to data engineering. Of course, he already has background in software engineering, so it's going to be quite easy for that person making some data or getting a data related role, right? But you can't compare yourself that person with yourself who just started from scratch without any knowledge of Python, without any knowledge of. It's going to be a journey. Just need to be patient, take your time, um, grow, give yourself space to learn and to grow, right? And celebrate your small wins. So if you finish a course today, celebrate it. If you get a gig today, a gig that pays maybe just a few dollars, celebrate it, right? Because you're already on that journey and you're going to get there eventually. Give yourself time, you get there. And you yourself, you have that journey to tell, that story to tell that yes, it took a while. Maybe my while can be 1 year, 2 years. For some, it can be 5 months. Some, it can be 5 years, but you eventually get there if you slog it through. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for me.
Okay. So Daniel, I'm doing this for our audience. Would you say that
Okay.
working at KPMG Africa at the moment as a senior data engineer, can you say that you have had your big break? And if you have, um, where would you say your salary range would be? You can stretch it, you can, you know, would you say you've had your
Okay.
big break as a data engineer? Doesn't necessarily have to be at KPMG, or do you feel like there's a project you did and I was like, okay, yeah, now I know I'm making it as a senior, and maybe this is my range at the moment, and just to also give insight to a young data professional so that they don't go out there and they're underpaid. So, what would you say?
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, firstly, I think the first thing to mention is that the pay ranges are kind of like relative. So, in Nigeria, I could say, yeah, I'm making it quite well. But of course, compared to somewhere like in the US, I know definitely. So it's quite subjective, but definitely, like I said, it's still a journey, and I'm still growing. I won't say I've made my big break yet because there's still opportunities for growth. I think I'll say I've made my big break when uh, maybe when I'm in big tech, for example, or earning in double, okay, annually maybe triple dollar digits. Yes, so maybe a monthly double dollar digits, maybe a couple of thousands, couple of 10,000s in a month of dollars. Then yeah, I know. Okay, yes,
Be specific. Give
yeah,
us a
this
range.
is
Give us
this
a
is
range.
big break. Yeah, but yeah, I think I'm doing quite well for myself currently in Nigeria. Of course, I'm striving to be better, striving to earn more, striving to grow. But yeah, I'm doing quite well, and yeah, I think that's just it.
Okay. So for our viewers, don't worry, I'll push him off camera to get us that range. So finally, Daniel, for someone who's
Yeah.
watching and they are looking up to people like you, senior in the data field, what advice would you give them? Apart from all that you shared, the insights on how to land your first job, how you would go about, data engineering in 2025 today. What advice would you give this person who's looking to enter this field? You know, they're looking at Daniel and like, wow, I'm really inspired. I wish I, could get there someday. What advice would you give them? And yeah, even I think looking back at younger Daniel, what would you tell him?
Okay. I think the first thing I would say is you can do it. Like you can really do it. Believe in yourself. You can do it. Um, it for me, it's not been easy. At some points, it was like I was doing three jobs at the same time. Not because I was doing jobs, but because I was on multiple learning programs at the same time while doing my job. So it's not been easy, but definitely you can do it. And I think the fact that I crossed from customer care, um, a non a non-engineering background, I studied marine biology at University of Lagos, and I've seen people. I have one of my close mentors who also did microbiology, yeah, at school. Um, she was a customer care rep too, but right now she's a big manager in one of the biggest telecommunications company in Nigeria, if not the biggest. I think it's even the biggest right in Nigeria. So the first thing is you can do it, no matter where you are right now. Just keep pushing. You can do it. Another thing I'll say for especially for data engineers is that don't get overwhelmed by the amount of tools that we have there out there. I'm sure if you open LinkedIn and you just check data engineer LinkedIn, you see a lot of tools. I mean, that they're running to thousands now, maybe not thousands, maybe hundreds of tools that you can use for different things. And it's easy to get overwhelmed, but don't get overwhelmed. Look for books that talk about fundamentals. Ground yourself in the fundamentals, the foundations. Um, Honestly, I did Python courses a number of times, and I was just doing introduction to Python, introduction to Python, introduction to Python over and over again. Because at certain times I didn't understand what I was doing. I would do the course, finish, but I see some code again. And I'm like, what is this? I go back to introduction to Python again, right? So it's fine, right? You might find yourself doing introduction a number of times, but just keep at it. And again, I can't emphasize community. It really, really helps. Community really, really helps. So yes, find a community that you can grow in and grow with. I realized I didn't talk about mentoring, which is very, very key. Mentoring is very, very key. So if you can find yourself a good mentor, or you see someone that just pick interest in you, that would really work. And reaching out to mentors is not so easy because they are often very busy. A lot of times they also have their own things that they have to face and stuff like that. But there are certain tips that I could probably share to get a good mentor, or reaching out to people that catch your fancy, that you want to be like, or that you want to learn from. One of the key things is look for things that they need or they are looking out to work on their own. So maybe check their posts, follow them around on LinkedIn, see what they talk about before reaching out to them, so that you can personalize your story very well. Another way too is joining communities. A lot of these mentors and people also grow in communities. A lot of them want to give back to communities. So there's a higher chance of getting a mentor through a community than just reaching out to them out of the blue, right? Um, and yeah, I think one more thing I was going to say is that I also found that a lot of people abuse free courses online. There are a lot of free courses online, right? But a lot of people take free courses and probably don't end it and finish it up. So if you can get in a paid program, because I realize that what you commit to, you definitely would find a way to finish it because you've paid some money for whatever it is. So if you have opportunity, pay for some certain courses because that would make you finish those courses. Speaking from experience. So yes, if you can do that, yes, do that. And if you can pay, yes. If you get those free opportunities, of course, take it. But find an accountability partner, someone that will also learn with you and push alongside. Yeah, I think that's basically it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone has a question in the comment section. Um, Maybe you can give them a minute in case anyone has a question. But thank you so much, Daniel. I think this conversation has been so, so insightful. I'm not in data, but I am taking notes. So thank you so much for even, the time despite the technical difficulties. We've managed to get to the finish
Yeah.
line. So thank you to our audience as well for tuning in, bearing with us through everything. We really, really appreciate it. We hope to see you next week, same time, same place with another guest. Thank you so much to all our audience. Oh, Odewumi is saying thank you, Daniel. Thank you as well, Odewumi, as well as everyone else. Prakash, Ayodeji, Kevin, Washira. Thank you so much. And of course, everyone who hasn't maybe commented, but thank you so much for, tuning in and also for the time. Daniel, I will follow up with you on that range.
No problem.
I'll follow up with you.
All
All
right.
right. Have a great evening. Bye,
Yeah,
guys.
and you too. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, young techies. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.